Hey, welcome to week number 3 of our cold calling mini-series. So far, we've talked a bit about what cold calling really is and a surefire way to get rid of any of your cold calling anxiety. But of course, there's still a lot of work to be done before you can really lock down sales or meetings or whatever you're trying to do using cold calls. Today, we're going to give you 5 proven techniques to improve your cold calls, lock down meetings, and grow your business. Hey everyone, I'm Ian Campbell. I'm CEO of Mission Suite. Before we jump into today's video, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button and ring the bell so that you're notified anytime that we post new videos. For over a decade now, and I can't believe it's been that long, I've helped my clients get the most out of their contacts using Mission Suite. Far too often we let our leads grow cold and stale, and that's a real problem. And part of it stems from our own unwillingness to reach out and make the necessary calls to get meetings and eventually to get sales. Hopefully, after watching the last 2 videos, you have a renewed sense of purpose in making cold calls, or any calls for that matter, but you still may not be sure you're doing it quite right. So don't worry, that's why we're here today. We've got 5 proven techniques for improving your cold calls that you can start implementing right now. So let's jump right in with number 1. Set a goal. Seems pretty simple, right? And it actually goes hand in hand with our last video because we discussed overcoming cold call anxiety with those goals. So when making a cold call, you need to go into it with a purpose. Otherwise, you're just going to come out of it with nothing. We've all done this at some point. Perhaps you've made a call, had a great conversation, but ultimately came away empty-handed. And, it could have had everything to do with you not being the right fit or you not having anything specific for that particular prospect. But there's a good chance that you also may have let yourself get so distracted by the connection that you had with that person on the other end of the phone that you let the conversation get away from you. And I've done this more times than I care to admit. If you don't have a goal going into a call, you're not going to know how to lead the call to its desired end because you don't have one. Now, as I mentioned in the last video, the end goal of most cold calls is to get a meeting. But the goal of every call doesn't have to be so lofty. It doesn't have to be the meeting. Recommend checking out that last video so you can see what I'm talking about, because there you're going to get an idea of what sort of goals you can be making to help make a super productive call. So don't pick up the phone unless you really know how you want that call to end. And it's always good to have a series of backup goals to fall back on just in case that primary goal doesn't end up panning out. Number 2, do your research. You'd be surprised at the number of people who don't do any research before they pick up the phone to make a call. Making cold calls is no longer a matter of closing your eyes, dropping your finger on a phone book, whether it's physical or virtual, and calling up the first business that you land on, at least not anymore. You need to lay the groundwork beforehand. What is the business? What are its potential pain points? How might you be able to help? And perhaps most importantly, who are you calling? What role do they have in the business? And how can you help them personally? If you understand all this going into each call, you can fine-tune your script and cater it really specifically to that person. If you do that, and not only will you be more adept to the conversation and be able to adapt that conversation better, but you'll achieve your goal for the call and you're going to reduce that anxiety. Because the more that you know about something, the easier it is to talk about it or talk to that person. And that's not it, right? Because the more work that you put in up front, the less likely you are to call someone who you know is a bad fit for you or for your business. And after spending 30 minutes researching Acme and its CEO Wile E. Coyote, you may just realize that it's not a good fit for them to buy the paint that makes the wall turn into an extension of the road, right? And as a result, you know not to call that person and avoid that awkward conversation. Remember, the less time that you waste on pointless calls, the better for everybody. So get your research done. Jump on Google, get on the business's webpage, use the LinkedIn page of the person that you're calling, find out what the priorities are, find out what business philosophies they subscribe to that you might be able to leverage in your call. Information is power, and you can use that information to unload onto your cold calling script and make that conversation that much more effective. And if you're interested in making your own script, check out the link in the description below to head to our cold call script builder. Okay, speaking of the script, that brings us to number 3. Gut your cold calling script. Now, by this time, I'm hoping at least that it's pretty clear that I'm not saying that you should go into every cold call without a script. In fact, you should always have one, right? Because if you don't have one, then you're probably just wasting both the caller's time and your own. But it's not enough just to have a script. You need to make sure that it's actually hitting on all the right notes and intriguing that person to keep listening to you. Successful cold calls are nearly twice as long as unsuccessful ones, but it's not just because the person calling was just babbling, hoping to find something to connect with the other person on, right? Every word that you utter is one more second that your potential client is being pried away from their business. So you need to make your case fast, and you need to earn those precious extra minutes with them, right? So after you create your cold calling script, take another look at it. What words can you cut out? What sections can be propelled upward to better help you solve your potential client's problem, or at least get them interested in learning more? Ironically, another thing to keep in mind is that you should actually be the one doing more talking in this case, right? This means that you should be really focusing in on really driving home your value proposition and getting them to know why they should meet with you. Now is not the time to listen to their problems. That's coming later, but you need to land the meeting first. Remember, that main goal is to land the meeting, right? So listen to their story once you're there, once you're in that meeting. But until then, you should be talking more. You should be speaking effectively, and you should be making the point based on what you know about the person that you're calling. So again, make sure that your script is clean. Every word really piles onto your sales pitch, and do your best to discuss who you are and what you're selling, right? What you're offering them. The more time that they spend listening to you and being convinced by that pitch, the more likely they are to actually jump onto a future call with you where you can then listen to them and hear all that they have to say. If you're starting to feel bad about not having done any of these things in the past, don't. For a lot of us, myself included, selling doesn't necessarily come naturally, and cold calling definitely doesn't. Often we end up accidentally wasting the time of a lot of potential clients or customers. But the important thing is that we learn and work to improve every single day. So have you found yourself accidentally wasting a prospective client's time thanks to maybe a lack of research or not knowing what to say? Let me know down in the comments below. And while you're down there, don't forget to like and subscribe if you're getting something out of this video. Number 4, be upfront about why you're calling. We've all had calls from people that we don't know. And if we don't just hang up on them right off the bat, usually we're just sitting there on the other end of the line, waiting, sometimes patiently, sometimes not so much, to see what this person's going to try and sell us, right? In fact, until we hear that, the chances are that we're not really listening to anything else that they have to say, because we're all waiting for the other shoe to drop. So there's no point in dragging it out. Now, as a caller, you may think that you're buying yourself some solid seconds there, but really you're just wasting time. Now, callers that state their objectives outright are more than twice as likely to end their call successfully. Once you state your purpose, that person on the other end of the phone is going to drop their guard, and they're going to be a lot more likely to listen to what you're saying now that they know why you're calling. So just get right to it. Once they answer, tell them who you are, tell them what business you're calling from, and once they know, tell them why you're actually calling. Chances are they'll be relieved, and if they cut you off then and there, that's okay, right? I mean, we all get hung up on, but now you've saved yourself some time, and now you can use that time to reach out to the next researched client on your list. And finally, number 5, learn from your mistakes. I know that once you have a template down, it's pretty tempting to just keep trudging ahead with it. It's easy to be so set in your ways and hope that each call pans out, but if you find that you're getting cut off at the same section in your call every time, maybe it's time to rethink everything leading up to that point. Are you asking awkward questions that are difficult to answer? Are you being too vague so that the person on the other end of the phone isn't able to connect with what you're talking about? There are hundreds of possibilities, right, that you can examine in your cold call script. But remember that just because you get rejected doesn't mean that you can't learn from each interaction. As you grow more familiar with the cold calling process, and let's face it, as you grow more familiar and comfortable with rejection, you're going to be able to identify better what it is and what's not working. Don't ignore that information. Every step that you get closer to making a successful call is one step closer to taking your business to the next level. So work it and earn it. As I mentioned before, you should set a goal for every call, right? And if you miss those goals, then at the very least, learn why the call failed, right? If you do this, not only are you going to get better and you're going to get stronger at calling, but you're actually going to start embracing that rejection, right? And it's going to make you that much stronger in the world of cold calling. So these are just 5 things that I tend to focus on when I'm giving people tips on how to be better with cold calls, right? There are plenty more out there. You may have noticed that a couple of them require some sort of a cold calling template, right? Some sort of a script. If you don't have one, well, don't worry, because we're here to help. We've actually put together a foolproof way to create a cold calling template of your very own, right? Your own script that's personalized for your business and your potential clients. This is a crucial first step into making sure that your calls are as successful as possible. So take advantage of it. Head down to the description below and check it out for yourself. Now, I hope you got something out of this video, and if you did, do me a favor. Go down, give it a thumbs up, maybe give it a share so that others can see it too. That always helps us kind of work the algorithm, so to speak, so that we can be in front of more people. And while you're there, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell so that you're notified every time that we post new videos. And while you're at it, check out these videos too, and we're going to see you next time around. Cheers.